Like right before we get to the next play, we're playing this football game. He's like, well, but we did have, an all-black baseball team. And then he kind of left it there. And then that's where I kind of went around in, circles trying to figure out everything about the all-black baseball team. And on that team was Theodore Bubbles Anderson, who was the only Colorado-born to play in the Negro Leagues and did so at the age of 17. So, it's a blessing to be able to go and talk about such a wonderful athlete, but it's also a cautionary tale as well. Because on one side, you're talking about an athlete who is so amazing to play this new league that is 3 years old when he was able to go and get into this league. But on the other hand, his career ended at 20. So imagine you being so good that you're able to play with several other Hall of Famers, like baseball Hall of Famers, right? In this brand new league amongst grown men, and then your career ends in just 4 seasons as it just starts. And so it's a wonderful story. It's a story that I'm constantly learning more about. And I think it's something that we should all know, we should all embrace as well, to be able to learn more about Theodore Bubbles Anderson.
So Colorado Sports Hall of Fame, tell us about that process.
Yeah.
How you got that going to get Bubbles Anderson into the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's very interesting because, so I think we all know Sam Adams. Used to write for the Rocky Mountain News. Now he does comedy, but a truly talented, not just writer, but also a talented comedian as well. Just has so many different gifts and talents. And so he was leaving, being a part of voting within the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame. And he invited me to join on and take his place. And so once I did, sometimes you kind of go into a new group and you kind of just sit down and say, okay, let me just kind of fit in, see the law of the land. And in the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame, before we all take our vote, we all get a chance to be able to nominate somebody. And so we're going and nominating, and they stand up and they're passionately speaking. And I stand up in 2017. I'm like, hey guys, I don't know if you know this player, but we need to have Theodore Bubbles Anderson in the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame because he's the only Colorado native to play in the Negro Leagues. Like guys, we don't have any link to the Negro Leagues in the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame if he's not in. And so at that time we were able to get a couple of votes and whatnot. Long and short of it took me 8 years, or 7 years, I would say, to where 2024 he was able to be finally inducted into the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame. And me being the only African American on the voting committee, it taught me a lot about how to be able to work with others who are not your ethnicity, frankly, to be able to go and talk about the importance of that. And even when I made the speech 7 years later, there's more so just standing up and saying, hey guys, we are incomplete. Like we are truly incomplete as a Hall of Fame if he's not in. Like you can have anybody else in. Like if someone say, hey, Colorado Sports and John Elway's not in, you would say, how do you not have John Elway in a Colorado Sports Hall? Like you can't talk about the Denver Broncos without talking about John Elway. Or you can't talk about Colorado's influence in the Negro Leagues without talking about Theodore Bubbles Anderson. So that's the same way that I felt, and it's a blessing for him to be in.
We live in a time politically where some of these stories are attempted to be erased from history. Recently, you saw Harriet Tubman was erased from the National Parks website before some uproar, and people eventually got her back on there. Similarly, with some military vets like Colin Powell, and before that was reversed as well. How important is it to tell these stories and have them be cemented in history? And you kind of mentioned you have to advocate for yourself and for these stories.
For sure. You also can add Jackie Robinson as well. That was another name that was taken off and then finally put back on within the military website as well. What really helped was it's easy to take away something or to find it insignificant when it's just saying, well, it's just black history, so it's just their history and we call it that. But when it's all of our history, that it's hard to deny it and to say, hey, this is our history. And that's what really, I believe, helped get over the top. Yes, it is black history to talk about Theodore Bubbles Anderson, and we're not shy about it. I'm not shy about it. Like, it is what it is. In the same way, though, That is Colorado sports history. That is our history. That is our lineage. We could all take a grasp of that and say, hey, I don't know if you know this, but did you know about this guy who played in the Negro Leagues when he was only 17? I know you were talking about all these other different, Hall of Famers in baseball history and everything, but we have somebody who's possibly the youngest to play in one of the greatest baseball leagues in history, and he came from Denver, came from our hometown. That's something to be able to celebrate. Like, that's extremely important to be able to go and talk about. Furthermore, there was this tournament called the Denver Post Tournament. And so, Denver Post Tournament is, you invite all these players from around the country at the time, and they will come here playing the Denver Post Tournament. Long and short of it, the Denver Post Tournament was integrated, I want to say in 1934, and this is when the Kansas City Monarchs came down. I'm going to play it in there. Oh, excuse me, let me not say 1934. Let me actually get that date more correct. We'll go ahead and step back on that one. But I'll just go with this, is that the Denver Post Tournament, when the Kansas City Monarchs came and played in the tournament, we were the first integrated tournament in the country. So think about that. When you talk about Jackie Robinson, years before Jackie Robinson was integrated baseball, or reintegrated baseball, because it was already integrated before, right, with Moses Fleetwood Walker. But when he reintegrated it, it was done with the tournament that we had with the Denver Post Tournament. So you can make the argument that if it's not for the Denver Post Tournament, then there's no Jackie Robinson. And then if there's no Jackie Robinson, then you don't have integration in baseball. So then you talk about, say, wait a minute, wait. You can't talk about what happened in the World Series on Saturday in that wonderful Game 7 that we all saw without talking about us. Because you saw so many different ethnicities that were there on the field playing in Toronto, right? Well, we have a huge hand within that. So when you go and make it something that we all can share in a history that we all can enjoy and we all have a piece of, it makes it that much more difficult to say, oh, it's not important, just a reason. Because it's something that we all share.
And that Denver Post Tournament is actually, like, for me, I only recently learned about that as well, but there are big names in that tournament, like people are more familiar with Satchel Paige or some big name players who played in that tournament.
Babe Ruth played in it?
And it's kind of gotten forgotten to some history.
Yeah, actually, Jay Sanford, who is a tremendous historian, and he has actually given me all this. Because I got like a lot of treats in here, by the way, which is interesting. See if I have the book of the Denver Post Tournament in here. I should, unless one of my kids took it out. Here we go. There we go. So here it is. So I'll show it on the screen here. So this is the Denver Post Tournament, and it's a great book. Jay Sanford wrote it. I know it's in the Denver Library. I've seen it there. But it is a book that is extremely important. You can see some of the faces, some of the names that have been able to go and play in that tournament. And so when you see that, again, this is our history right here. And this is our place within baseball history and the importance that you have. And just know this, that before we see a lot of times within American history when we see civil rights movements in many respects, right? We see the successes of civil rights movement. We see them in entertainment first. And so when we saw an integrated tournament, and people were able to come out and see black baseball players play with white baseball players, and you could see them, in many respects, valid on the field or just competing on the field of play, then that really spurs on different changes that you will see in different places within civil rights movements. And so that's why this is so important, not just the game of baseball, but this is so important for the lives that we all are able to enjoy today.
And just from a baseball standpoint, they called it the World Series of the West, I believe. It helped spread the game to other parts of the country at a time where it was mostly east of St. Louis, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it just stopped. I mean, you think about it, even with the Kansas City Monarchs, for example, right? Like, it just kind of stopped right there. But then you look at, I know we have someone here from Pueblo. We can look at the Pueblo pastimes that started off in the late 1800s, right? So baseball has been around for a while, but the notoriety that you have when you talk about on a major league level, I mean, to be honest, it really stopped, like you said, within the St. Louis area, right? Not going west into Mississippi, or then you have Kansas City as well. But then you look at a lot of the minor leagues and how they were able to go and continue to grow, and then it comes over here to Denver. And you can just see how baseball literally goes from coast to coast and the impact that this game has had to really go and push change, not only on the ball field, but off of it as well. It's pretty neat to see.
And another interesting thing I saw about this tournament is variety of teams, variety of skill levels, all mixed into one tournament. One of those teams was obviously the Denver White Elephants. What
Mhm.
can you tell us about that team and their importance to Denver and to this story for Bubbles Anderson as well?
I come with props. I come with gifts, as we like to say right here, okay? So this is the Denver White Elephant. I know it might be a little bit hard to go and see it. We've got the camera right here. Go and take that picture. Take a picture. There you go. He said he got it right here. But if you take a look, you can see this is a picture of the Denver White Elephants. There's an all-black baseball team, the longest-lasting all-black baseball team. And they're around from 1915 to 1935, so 21 seasons. And the owner of the Denver White Elephants is a guy by the name of Albert Henderson Wade Ross. Now, if you say, why is that name so important? Just think of the name, Albert Henderson Wade Ross. But there is a building right now in 5 Points that still holds his name, the Rossonian. So when you think about, wait a minute, the Rossonian is up, we can literally touch, feel, and see history right now. And you can see the impact that it has made in Denver. So for me, I'm like, hey, let's get the Rossonian back. Like, it's not just something that was amazing for jazz musicians to be able to come down. It tells the story of that, where, hey, this is a place where black musicians can go and play, where they be able to entertain and make money and be able to feed their families. But it's also a place that's still alive today. Just needs a little building infrastructure, to be able to fix it up a little bit, but it's still a building that is around today, and it's something that everybody should be able to know. And also tells a story of a thriving area within 5 Points.
Do you know much about the Denver Star as the newspaper at the time?
A little bit. So, again, man, I am like on it when it comes to props today. So, Theodore Bubbles Anderson, when his obituary, so one of his obituaries, again, let me just show right here, within the Denver Star. It's a little bit hard to see here. Sometimes you have a little white print, but it just talks about, his passing. And there's a lot of great information that it has about him, when his service was held as well. And I think what's interesting when you look at the Denver Star, because I believe it was a 1 week, it was a weekly publication, I want to say, not, or maybe.
Not entirely sure.
Yeah. But what it does give us, though, is that we know he lived, we know Bubbles Anderson lived and died. We also learn more about, at this level, you can look at, the reverend that was officiating his funeral. And so Reverend A.C. Dones, who was a reverend at New Hope Baptist Church. New Hope Baptist Church, still around, it was off of Colorado Boulevard. And what I found really interesting is that you can now go and look and say, okay, well, who's this person? Well, who's this person? And once you start to look at the names, you say, okay, so what's the significance of this pastor being here? And you can learn more about the times within that Bubbles Anderson passed away. And now you can learn, okay, what does it mean to be, a black man in Denver during this time? And now you just, again, continue to find more and more and more different, I call them a jigsaw puzzle. You find more and more and more little pieces to this puzzle about, the life that Bubbles Anderson was able to live in at the time, and also how Colorado was as well. So, the Denver Star, an extremely important newspaper for all of us.
One thing that I found interesting is it was kind of a way for just upward societal financial mobility for some of these players. Do you have any context you can give us on that? Are you familiar?
Yeah. Barnstorming. If you have a gift, you want to use it, and especially if you want to have this gift to be able to go and make some money. Wonderful article, by the way. Yeah, that's one thing. Okay. Anyway, but barnstorming is actually one of the ways that the Kansas City Monarchs was able to go and discover Bubbles Anderson. So let's go back into the Denver Post tournament. Here comes the Kansas City Monarchs. They play here. They see this young, phenom playing baseball, and it's like, wait a minute, he should play for us. And so that's where Bubbles Anderson was the first place that he plays. He plays 2 seasons for the Kansas City Monarchs, and in 1923 leads them to a championship. Actually had his best batting average at that time. But this is something that you had to do. This is not like how we have it today, where you have 162 games and you're able to go and play the week, and you go throughout the weekend, and you fly somewhere first class, and you go from there. No. You had to go, and you had a certain set of games, And then you had to go from town to town to town playing baseball in order to make some funds. And so that's just different ways that guys had to be able to go and play, and they did it through barnstorming. And it was just not only Negro Leaguers, Major Leaguers did it as well. But it's a wonderful place in history because you see so many great kind of, all-star teams, I like to call them, put together and play on the ball field together.
So you kind of mentioned, it's obviously not an era like today where we have nonstop highlights. You can just look up the game a day later. Like, what kind of player was Bubbles Anderson, and how were you able to kind of gather this information?
Yeah, prayer does wonders. Bubbles, how you go find out about him? No, just a second baseman as well. I've seen some publications that said he played catcher, but second baseman was where he played, and just a young player. I love what the Kansas City Star had to say about him, where it just talked about him as a player who cried in the dugout after a loss. And it's small things like that which really bring things in perspective. When you look and say, okay, what type of temperament was this young man? And I can just imagine being 17 and you're amongst all these grown men and you lose a game and you're so passionate about the game and you find yourself crying, just weeping in the dugout. And the author said he's going to be a great player in many respects. And so I love that. But yeah, smooth fielding, gap hitter, never hit a home run in the Negro Leagues, but did have 99 hits in his career, which is interesting, where you can have 99 hits and no home runs. And kind of the way that I ended my speech within the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame was, he had 99 hits, but thank you for finally bringing him home. Because to me, the 100th hit is finally getting that number of completion that I felt. So that was the type of player that he was. But again, it's just something I'm even learning more about. Because you find small things in different news clippings about, oh, okay, so he did this, or he was able to go and get some stolen bases, or this, that, and third. So it was really great to be able to learn that about what was happening.
Could you talk a little bit more on the research side of finding all the information for this story? Because when we were on the phone, you mentioned it's not a story where he had living relatives or those points of references for other historical stories.
Yeah. So my journey, this may be a little bit longer, so please forgive me for this. But when I started doing my research on Bubbles Anderson, I knew a little bit and just looking up some different stories of whatever I could find about Bubbles Anderson. And you could find like some batting averages and things like that about him online. But it wasn't until I went and visited Jay Sanford. And so Jay Sanford is a baseball historian. I consider him one of the top historians in the country, especially Negro Leagues historian. I mean, he is amazing everything that he has, and honestly, he needs to be honored one way or the other because he has made such a contribution to baseball history and to really preserving baseball history. It's just ridiculous. I mean, I see the stuff that he has, and I'm like, dude, you got to go and put this like in a museum somewhere because he has so much great history. So being able to find out about Bubbles Anderson, actually, a lot of the markings that you have here is directly from him. Being able to find different things about him. Like, for example, I see where you see Bubbles Anderson being buried in an unmarked grave. He was buried in an unmarked grave from 1943 all the way to 2005 until Jay Sanford was able to finally put a headstone on his grave that still remains today. And so for me, it was just doing slow research, looking up numbers, being able to call different individuals, and you find out more numbers as you can about him. I think what's interesting is you just try to verify as much as you can the numbers, right, about Bubbles Anderson. But it was fun to be able to do a story originally that I did in 2012 for Denver 7. And then ever since then, I was able to learn more and more and more about Bubbles Anderson. And again, it's a wonderful scavenger hunt of being able to look at different articles. Even Dave Platty, who is a former SID within Colorado Buffaloes, assistant athletic director, was able to go and give me a couple of clippings that I had no clue about. And he was like, hey, I just found this on Bubbles Anderson. Like, I found out about his first game, he went 3 for 4. And I was like, well, how do you know he went 3 for 4? Well, Dave Platty was doing stats for the Colorado Rockies. So he's able to go and read the box score and say, hey, this is even though I know how to like read a box score, he's able to say, hey, this is actually specifically what happened per inning. And so it is really cool to be able to do that. I think the one thing that I've learned is that this is not just a solo project. This is something that is a community project. And it goes back to something that we talked about earlier, that it's not just one person's history. It's everybody having a chance to be able to contribute to within telling this story about Theodore Bubbles Anderson. That, in my opinion, is still not done yet. There's still more to learn about him. There's still more to learn about different guys that he played with and the lives that they lived, the impact that they had within Colorado sports, within Black baseball history as well. So to be able to have the assistance, to be able to have that help, just more paints a wonderful portrait of the story.
Is there much known about him as far as his personal life? Because it's very vague. Like you mentioned, his career was cut short, and he also died at a young age as well.
Yeah, died at the age of 38. Actually, according to his death certificate, which I have, again, props, people. Props, they do a lot. But died at 38, and died of a gastric ulcer. And so when you talk about his personal life, Jay Sanford said that he spoke to a relative of his, an aunt of his, and like in early 90s. So he got his death certificate in 91. So imagine around that time they was able to go and speak with her. But just said a couple of things about Bubbles Anderson, about just how he was, but there's not really that much that is known about him, which is why every time I see something in a newspaper and I pick it up, I'm like, oh, this is something else I've learned about him. Like, it's really cool to be able to find that and see that. But what is known is that he was never married, didn't have any kids, and so was also a janitor as well. But he did serve in World War II. And so you look at this, all the different things, it's like, okay, this is what he did. And I don't know the significance of being a janitor. I don't know the significance of, frankly, being a Black man during that time, in the early 40s, late 30s. And is that the only jobs that were available during that time? I don't know. But I do know that he was homesick, was coming from playing with the Indianapolis ABCs. And so he was on the road, going from there to play the Kansas City Monarchs, and during that point just got homesick at the age of 20 and decided to come back to Denver. But again, so you see kind of the reason why it's like, hey, there's not a lot, but once you find something, it's like, oh wow, this is something else that's new, but it's something else that's new, so that's what makes it pretty cool.
And this story itself has kind of been an emotional and personal journey for yourself as well. Could you talk about that process?
Yeah, it's see, now you go maybe just like tear up.
My goal was to get Justin to cry.
Like Baldwin Walters would do all these interviews and people are like, I'm not gonna cry. And you see him with like Kleenexes and everything. Keep me there. It is on a personal level. I was doing an article. Oh no, I wasn't doing an article. I was working at Mount High School, so that's my alma mater. And as we talked about a little bit earlier. And I was working with affectionate needs students. So at the time I was a paraprofessional. And this was 2009, going 2010. And they had a book on baseball. Big book on baseball. So I know a little bit, about baseball history, and I'm like, okay, well, see a black face somewhere around this thing. And I remember going page after page after page, just white face after white face. And you didn't see a black face until you saw Jack Robinson. I was like, dude, there's so much that's being left out of this book. And it's like this thick book on baseball. And the reason why it's always emotional for me is because I think of my son and daughter. And I think of that kid that I was talking to. And I want them to know that you have a rich baseball history. Like you have something that's so valuable. And to think of a young man who's 17 to play in the Negro Leagues. I think of Ward Campanella, Hall of Fame catcher, who played in the Negro Leagues. He played as a teenager. Some say Hank Aaron played in the Negro Leagues as a teenager, Willie Mays as well. So when I could put Bubbles Anderson amongst those names, his talent amongst those names, just let you know how good he is. Honestly, how damn good he is. And that's why it's so important for me to tell that story. Because I want to make sure that Colorado's not like that. Like, it's a personal charge of mine to make sure that when we're talking about history of the game of baseball, you got to make sure that you come across Rocky Mountain and talk about our state, because we have something to say. That's why it's so important.
So good segue here. What's next for you in this story?
Whew. You know, events like this just keep it alive, and to continue to talk to it through, you know, future generations, however I can. Yeah, I mean, I know some people are like, you should do a book, and I was like, dang, a book. Can ChatGPT do the book for me? I got kids, y'all. Take a lot of time. But I think that there does need to be something that along those lines that is done within representing Theodore Bubbles Anderson. And I think it's something that should be in every school to be able to go and say, hey guys, this is something that's available for us. Like, we should know this. Like, it should be common knowledge. That's the way that I feel about it. Is that you say, hey guys, you should know about the Deborah White elephants. You should know about H.W. Ross. You should know about Theodore Bubbles Anderson. You should know about all these individuals. And the best thing about this is when I see someone and that light switch hits, and they're like, oh, I gotta do some research on this guy. Like, I gotta do a little bit of research. Because once you start the journey of going on the research to learn about Bubbles Anderson, you're going to learn so much more. And that's what's truly satisfying, is that it's not just me telling you about Bubbles Anderson. It's you now owning the information because you've invested the time. And so I think that's the next step, is to be able to go and have different events like this, and to be able to make sure that we all know about Bubbles Anderson. We all know about the wonderful and rich colors which is we have.
And you did come prepared, as you mentioned. You
I bring
brought
gifts.
props.
I bring gifts. Yes.
What are some? Just go over some props that we didn't cover here.
Yeah. So this is a picture actually of Bubbles Anderson right here. And so I don't know if you can see this, but I'm gonna raise it closer. It is amazing when you can look at yourself on TV and this camera is nice. So you did. This is a picture of Bubbles Anderson that you see here. So again, go let that thing flow one time. Blah, blah. Man, that didn't look good. But yes, we have this, obviously the book with the Denver Post Tournament as well with Jay Sanford. But I just have a lot of other different just pieces of history that was just given to me from Jay Sanford. He was just like, here you go. And I was like, are you sure you want me to give it to you? I'm not giving it back, but are you sure you want to give this to me? And no, but it was, it's great to be able to have all these different pieces where you can be able to look at the team. And, you know, I asked my wife for Christmas to give me one of these jerseys and everything. And actually, you were talking about one of the things I'm looking to do forward. So I was talking to the Rockies, and they haven't announced anything like that, but you know, do a little sneak peek here. Really looking to have Theodore Bubbles Anderson honored during, so the Rockies will be on the road during Jackie Robinson Day. So either their first homestand when they come back, or just before, during pregame, to have him honored. So we talked about that. So we talked about having him honored, and so I'm going to try to do my best to make sure everybody gets there early to be able to go and see this. But it is just doing that, and also working with the with History Colorado too, to be able to say, hey, what's something that we can put together to be able to talk about Bubbles Anderson. So some of the things that we're looking to do. And, if you guys ever want a postage, as a sense of an out by mail, got something for you. But yeah, these are all the different things you can be able to take a look at. I'm actually going to spread this out if you don't mind, because I would love for everybody to be able to take a look. And you can flip on the back and be able just to read about all the different players, all the different teams that we have here, that I have here at the disposal. I did want to point out this before we do run. And this is when Bubbles Anderson had his headstone put on his grave. And you can see, and I'll let you hold this real quick before I go put it on camera. But But you can just see how, again, this is something where, so you got it, you see this? This was actually the flyer and everything that was passed out. And it's just to talk about him, and you can look on the back, and if you're curious, you can see where he is at the Fairmont Cemetery, Fairmont Mortuary right now. And I would say this, the biggest thing that changed my life was last year, or the year prior, and seeing his grave. And when you see someone's grave, that's when you look and say, oh, this is real. Like, he lived and he died, and here he is. Here's his bones. And that really just focused me in to say, hey, we got to make sure he's in the colors with the whole thing. Like, there's nothing that's going to hold it back. And the year before he was actually put into the Hall of Fame, he was beat out by 1 vote. So just imagine doing all the work, and it's like, oh, he lost out by 1 vote. He lost out to Wood Page, by the way. Not the whole thing. But he was right there. He was right there, and to be able to go and see him get in, I pray that I'm able to do a lot more amazing things within my career. But if the only thing I'm able to do is to tell the story about a 38-year-old baseball player who was never married, never had any kids, but represented Colorado, represented our dirt as the only Colorado player in the Negro Leagues, it's good enough for me.
I'm going to open it up here to questions from the audience. Yeah, folks, just raise your hand if you have a question.
Well, so, guys, nickname Bubbles.
Yeah, so there's been various different things that I've learned. The one thing I stick with is he had a bubbly personality. So that's where Bubbles come from. What's funny though is when you look at baseball players in that day, everybody had like a nickname, like Oliver the Ghost Marcel. I wish I had a nickname like the Ghost Marcel. Like that's pretty cool, right? And so, bubbly personality was one that I've heard and I'm sticking with as well. But I've never read like in a publication. Jay Sanford let me know about that was the nickname that he had, and he spoke to a relative of his. So I'm just going to go and stick with that one.
Where did the team names come from, like the Denver White Elephants
Yeah.
and Kansas City Monarchs? I've always found that pretty interesting.
I don't know specifically about the Monarchs, but I do know with the Denver White Elephants is when you think about a white elephant gift, what is it? Hey, you have all these different gifts inside, just random gifts, and you just put your hand in and you grab one. So the idea is with the Denver White Elephants is you just have this collection of black baseball players that all come together, kind of this collection of all-stars, and they play together. So that's where you have the Denver White Elephants come from. And it's pretty cool to be able to see that name, and pretty cool to be able to see like the jerseys and the colors. I actually have the hat and the jersey at home, so forgive me for not bringing that prop as well. But it's really cool to be able to see just how they have been developed and everything from there within that team.
So, as a sports historian myself, somebody who's passionate, especially about Colorado sports, how much of an impact do you think the Denver Post tournament had in, say, like Bob Howsam getting ready to start, trying to get a major league team here in Colorado, getting bought out by the MLB and then starting the NFL, which gave us the Denver Broncos?
Right.
How much of an impact do you think having that series here kind of bled into that? I know it's 30 years apart, but how much of that do you think kind of played into that role?
Well, I think anytime you have the successes of a tournament of that, I mean, baseball being the #1 sport, right? Anytime you have that, especially the city of Denver, kind of could show that you could be able to have a professional franchise here. You think of the, I don't want to say Arena Football League, obviously, I'll just say the AFL, for sure. But to be able to go in, say we could hold a tournament, we could be able to go in, and you just think of more and more people coming to Denver as well. I think it's extremely important to be able to have successes of the Denver Post tournament. And don't forget, it was started by the Denver Post itself, right? And so to be able to have the sports editor at the time, actually, the Denver Post started the tournament. And so to be able to go and have that is that extra layer that will be able to go and help out the city of Denver, be able to have a team like the Broncos to be able to come into town, and then other several professional teams. But also when you talk about baseball, you had other minor league teams too, right? The Denver Bears, Denver Zephyrs, right, to be able to come here, which then transformed into what down the road? The Colorado Rockies. So to be able to have all these different teams, to be able to have them profitable and successful, now you can be able to have different teams as well. It's not just the Broncos we're talking about. You can talk about the Denver Rockets too, right? You have the Denver Rockets, which turned into the Denver Nuggets that we have today, right? And so, you know, Colorado Rockies, which at first were the Colorado Avalanche, which at first were the Colorado Rockies, right? When their first go around here, they were actually the Rockies, and they are now the New Jersey Devils. And so you just see kind of like how different teams were able to come here, but you first had to have something that were able to show that you could have some sort of stability to be able to come back to, and I believe that's why the Denver Post Tournament was so important in order to have those professional franchises.
So my question is, how long did it take to do this project, and what was your favorite part about it?
Yeah, my favorite part, so let me go with the first part. I would say I started in 2009, just off of curiosity, because I graduated college in 2009. And again, once you graduate college, you should find a job, which makes perfect sense while I was playing video games, like all the time. And so, but that's when the curiosity started. And so I began working at Channel 7 in 2010, and I really jumped on the story in 2011. Actually, I could tell you, it's so weird how my mind works. The Broncos were playing Cincinnati. I want to say, was that 09? No, because Tebow was here. When was he drafted?
2010.
2010, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the Broncos beat the Bengals early on in the season. The reason why I just remember that is because they had a Negro League event that was actually in Aurora, at the Aurora Library. And that's where I met Jay Stanford, and that's where they had a lot of information there. And so that's really what things kind of started getting going. And there's like different, different checkpoints where it's like, oh, okay, I need to really go and look further into this. Oh, wow, I need to really look further into this. I was doing an internship at Mile High Sports Radio. Jim Armstrong at the time, who worked at the Rocky Mountain News, had the contact information of Jay Stanford. That's how I got in touch with him. And once I walked into his room and he showed me some of the history, I was like, holy cow, I gotta go and tell the story. Like, I can't believe this hasn't been told. My favorite moment. My favorite moment is anytime I see somebody say, I didn't know this. I didn't know it. And you can tell they started doing research on their own. That's my favorite moment. Because it could be one thing to say when he finally got that vote to get into the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame, like I dreamt about that moment, to be able to do the speech, because voters generally don't do speeches. And because he didn't have any living relatives, at least that we know of, to be able to do it was fun, but truly selfishly is when anybody takes a moment to say, let me go and take a look at this for myself. That is my favorite moment. And that will always be my favorite moment, is when somebody does that.
We have a question?
Hi, thank you for being here. Many years ago, I watched all of Ken Burns' baseball.
Yes.
And we all love him. And I spent most of my life in Los Angeles, so I'm a diehard Dodger fan. And so I have a special place in my heart for Jackie Robinson.
Yes, sir.
Not for what he did on the field, but for what he did off the field.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know that. I guess my question to you is, it's been a long time since I've seen baseball, but I thought Ken Burns did a great job of really including the Negro Leagues in that documentary. That was a big part of it. And I never knew that it was so vast, that there were so many teams, and that it was such a big thing. And do you remember, did he mention Bubbles Anderson or in that documentary? Because it seems to me from everything you've said, that's a really important thing.
It is a really important thing. I don't remember him mentioning Bubbles Anderson, which is why again, this story is so important for us. And again, I put out, like, this is us right here. Like, we're having a community conversation right here. Like, this is a I consider this family business. Like, we could be having this conversation. I don't remember him having that about Bubbles Anderson, but frankly, I don't know how many people have a conversation about somebody who hit 251 for their career, 99 home runs with no home runs. 99 hits and no home runs, right? And you could say, well, the numbers aren't, startling, or they're not like, all-star numbers or whatnot, but it's just the significance of having somebody who came from here and playing in that league. That's the significance. I mean, I could care less about the numbers. I'm looking around and say, hey guys, we don't have anybody who has represented that amazing baseball league from our state in our Hall of Fame. And so I don't remember that being in there, but that's another reason why it's important for us to tell our story. Because we can't rely on, as amazing as Ken Burns is, we can't just rely on Ken Burns to tell our story. We have to be able to tell our story. We have to be able to tell our story well. Like, this is something where I should be able to leave here, and somebody else could be able just to pick it up from this crowd right here. Like, that's the way I feel about Bubbles Anderson. Because it's not mine. It's not mine to hold. It's mine to be able to share with everyone. And so that's the way that I feel about the story. But baseball is a tremendous documentary, and everybody should take out the time to be able to go and look at that, for sure. Go ahead.
Good evening. I met Justin before we were great, but baseball was one of the first sports that I played as a kid. I played sundown. You mentioned I have a lot of major league, Negro League paraphernalia. I went to the Negro League Baseball Museum, which is next door to the Jazz Museum in Kansas City. And I was pretty remarkable and amazed at these history and artifacts, but as I was telling Justin, I lived in a block in Park Hill with a gentleman named Byron Johnson. And he had a nickname, speaking of nicknames, they called him Max, because he was African American, and I don't know if his other parent was Anglo, Mexican, or whatever, but as I was telling you, after meeting his son was a pretty good athlete, but I have some white elephant items too. But also baseball is just one of those sports as a kid that you played. I got to go to Dodger Stadium and see Juan Marichal. And Willie Davis was my idol, all-time idol. So a lot of kids just don't know the depth and the history of Negro League baseball. And it's very interesting. But it was one of the things I'd say. But I just find it very interesting that kids don't play as much as, they used to because of basketball, football, and other sports. But that was one of the things I'd say. I'll think of.
Well, no, can I just a couple things on the point that you had. Number one, let's go with kids not playing baseball. And this is not just, aren't there more African Americans playing baseball, just kids in general not playing baseball. Kids are playing, they're not playing the way that we used to. They're not playing where it says, hey, you and me and a couple of friends just go out to the diamond and play. And we'll play all day. We'll just go out there, that's why they call it the sandlot. We're just going to play. I have a glove, my friend has a glove, we just have one ball or two balls or whatever, somebody has a bat, and we're just going after it for hours, right? I think travel ball has a lot to do with that. Honestly, when you talk about $1 billion industry within youth sports, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, it tears up the relationships that you would be able to build on the baseball field, because it now has to be organized and now has to be monetized, right? In order for you to play baseball, you have to pay $150 some odd. Oh, and by the way, you need to fly to this area just to play a team that is literally right down the street from where you live. Like, that happens. We do realize that, right? Like, you will play in another state the team that is literally, like, if they're not in the same block, maybe a couple blocks down.
Yeah.
You're like, what are we doing, right? You have to pay for hotel, you have to pay for all these other different things, right? Airplane cost, not just registration fees for a trophy that truly just amounts to a paperweight at the end of the day. But let me digress on that one. But when you talk about learning about the history of the Negro Leagues, I think MLB The Show is doing a fantastic job. In the last couple of years, what they have done is actually had stories of the Negro Leagues within their story mode that they have in the game. So if you buy the game, you can actually learn about different players in the Negro Leagues. You can learn about Rube Foster. You can learn about Oscar Charleston, for example. Obviously, Satchel Paige of the world as well. So I think those are the things that you have to have in order for people to learn history, is that while you're playing video games or while you're just doing something for fun and you're on TikTok or whatnot, something comes up and it says, hey, did you know about this about the Negro Leagues? Actually, the Negro League Hall of Fame, they are building up, they are looking to go and have a new building. It's supposed to be like twice the size or 3 times the size of the one that you were able to go and visit. And so that is going to be fantastic to be able to see, because as amazing as the Negro Leagues Hall of Fame is, I don't know, like how many people have been there before? Like, it's a really wonderful place. It's a little bit cramped though.
It's tight.
Right, it's like really tight. But it's just like, wow, look at all this information. This is amazing. Let me just go and kind of scoot on over, while we had it, right? So it's going to really expand it, give it several different levels, and I believe that's going to help out as well. Also, Bob Kendrick, who is the president of the Negro Leagues, one of the kindest gentlemen you ever see and able to meet, and also one of the best dressers too, man. I'm always trying to take tips from him. That dude is amazing. But it's able to have guys who are personable, who also understand how to run a nonprofit, to be able to make it profitable, to be able to go and preserve and continue to forward the story of the Negro Leagues. My only thing that I have when I think about where the Negro League Hall of Fame is right now is that the next generation needs to be prepared to go and take over. At some point, the next generation needs to be able to step in. Some younger individuals need to be able to go and step in and say, okay, now it's our turn to be able to go and pass forward the knowledge that you have learned from Buck O'Neil. Like, actually I've seen Buck O'Neil, right? Actually I've talked to him. Buck O'Neil was the one who started the Negro League Baseball Hall of Fame. And so the next generation needs to be ready to be able to go and tell the story to the next generation. So that's my only charge that I'll have for the Hall of Fame.
I do remember a couple things. 23rd Welton ballpark, where my uncles and dad used to play baseball. And I can't remember if it was softball or baseball, but that park is still there. And the other thing you're talking about, nicknames, sports and music have been very paramount about nicknames, because you with a guy constantly during the season, and you're always kidding, so everybody has nicknames, whether you're fast or what was the one guy that said you turn out the lights and get home plate with the lights went out or something.
Yeah.
Cool Papa Bell.
Yeah, cool Papa Bell can go from second base all the way home and turn on the lights at the same time. Just awesome. I'll give you one. How about this? I think you might be mentioning this. Sunny Lawson Park,
Right.
right by the Blair Caldwell library, excuse me. And if you actually go to the park now, you can actually see a little bit of the etches of it. From what I've been told, if you hit a ball, so when they played there, if you hit a ball out in right field, because it was so short, it will only be a ground rule double. It wouldn't be a home run. So can you imagine like destroying a baseball? And it's like, oh, it went to right, ground rule double. It's like, no, I destroyed the ball. No, right field, too short, no, ground rule double. So, but you could like go there today and see it's like, wow, this is a really short park. And that's where people play baseball. I know there's another area too around here. I want to say Merchants Park.
Yeah, that was
Somewhere played.
That's where did the Bears start there?
Yeah. So there was different areas where people played. Some are just covered up now on asphalt, nowadays. But it is pretty awesome to be able to see all the different pieces of history that we have. And you could be able to look back at different books, different photographs, and say, oh, well, there's a baseball park that used to be here. So it's pretty cool.
Lastly, I wanted to say right here in our own state, the Rockies have a vice president of community relations.
Yeah.
Who's an African-American kid, Dallas Davis, I don't know if you know Dallas, who went to Colorado State and played
Okay.
He's been vice president of community relations for a while. So he's a young guy that's real interested in the future of baseball and all types of kids.
Yeah. Well, let's sit down together. I would love to get together with him. Here's the thing. It's just important that there's certain pieces of history that the sport just means a little bit more. Like for example, like I said, who's the first African American NFL player? I don't know. Many people could say just like off the top of their mind, right? Hockey. I know Willie O'Ree, I want to say is his name. And so, but then there were some who would say actually hockey was actually developed by, African Americans, black people. And so, but when you talk about baseball, that's one thing that everybody knows. You know how many home runs it is? You can say the home run king is Hank Aaron, Barry Bonds. You can make that argument if you want, but you know about that, right? You know about 756, or you know about 715, or 715, right? You know Babe Ruth is 714, right? You know about how many single season home runs there are. You know about 73. You also know about Jackie Robinson. There is something about the game of baseball that even as it has been moved, as football, as professional football, and college football has moved into really the pastime now of America, baseball is still something where the knowledge is known for the most part by all sports fans, one way or the other. And there's other pieces within those other sports, right? NFL and college football that you don't hold, or that you don't know, but you really don't hold as significant as baseball has. And so it still has the heartbeat of our country. So it's pretty interesting to be able to see that. What other question? We are here. What other questions we got? I love this.
How much do you think the recent adoption by Major League Baseball or of Negro League Baseball stats into its historical catalog, how much do you think that's impacted the legacy of black baseball in the United States and just given it kind of a new life and really concrete meaning of the legacy of the sport?
Yeah, I think you have obviously the two sides, right? We have one side that says, they're upset and they didn't play the same league and, that they didn't play against Major League Baseball players and whatnot. But on the other side, it gives it the, certain things you'll say it's kind of the certification that you needed. And it's really Major League Baseball saying, yeah, these guys were that good. They just didn't have an opportunity. Frankly. I mean, we all know what happened in many respects, right? Literally, there was an owner who said, get these, fill in the racial slur off the field, and that's the reason why that for several decades that there weren't any African Americans out playing in the major leagues. Like that's actually what happened. And so you call it collusion, whatever you want to go with that, right? That's what happened. But in spite of that, you still had a league that was able to come out of that and to be able to go and have some of the best baseball players in the history of the game to be able to get together and play. They didn't play as many games as they did in Major League Baseball, but to have somebody like Josh Gibson to be, tops when it talks about slugging percentage, like he was, man. I think the one thing that I just wish though is it's extremely important that Major League Baseball did that, and it's the right thing to do. I just wish I could have there could have been some video of Josh Gibson going up against, Walter Johnson or something like that, right? Or, and I think Walter Johnson played a little bit well before, even if they would have been integrated. But you just wish that, man, I wish they were able to go and play together. Like, I wish that would have been able to happen. Like I feel like we were robbed in many respects of great theater. Not just great baseball, like just a great theater, because that's really what baseball is. Like, the game of baseball is really just, yeah, you got all these guys out here in the outfield, you got a catcher and everything, but at the end of the day, it is one-on-one battle. It is the pitcher and the batter. That's the game. It's the pitcher and the batter. And you're trying to go and figure out a way how to go and get somebody out on one end, and on the other hand, somebody's trying to go and hit with a round stick on a round ball, which is one of the hardest things to be able to do. But to try to go and get that into play or get that over the fence, that is a beautiful game, man. Like, that is awesome. And I think, did anybody see Game 7 by any chance? And you can just feel like in the ninth inning and in extras. By the way, slide hand first, especially if you have that glove. But again, I digress. Makes no sense. I don't understand why you want to slide with your foot first. Like, bro, just
Go.
dude, go after it. It's okay. You will win the ring. You'll get a concussion, but go after it. It's okay. But you just feel like the intensity of like, here's the pitch. And in your mind, you're actually, you're playing a game too. Okay, just threw him a fastball. Or he just threw a curveball. You gotta throw this pitch here. Wait, he just went inside. So he has to be looking to go outside here. But that's the cool part of the game. Like, try to figure out how to hit it 98 mile per hour fastball. Or try to hit a sweeper. Or try to hit a slider. Like, how do you do that, especially in those pressure situations. That's what makes the game so beautiful. I absolutely love that about the game of baseball. We doing all right? What else we got? Any more questions?
Final question?
How did you solve the crime?
Yes, okay. This is what we all came here for, right, guys? I will say this. We're all journalists in this room. And so the one thing we know this, and I'll try to make the story as fast as possible. I get a call, so I work in the morning show, so yes, I would be there early in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. That's going to be awesome, seeing my live shot. So I got a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, Justin, we need to change your story. There's been, a guy who was on the loose. First of all, why are you sitting me somewhere where somebody's on the loose? Yeah, of course. And he's on the loose. The police, the sheriff, let's say the Idaho Springs, they were really, looking for this guy overnight. And he was in a car chase. Was able to get out the car, and they sent out dogs and everything and drones. He was in the creek. They lost his scent, but just go up there and essentially do a report on that. Okay, so we go over there and we see 31's up there and Channel 7's there too. And so initially, and it's important that I kind of set everything up a little bit longer. Initially, we were going to go to about a half a mile up the road because at the time we were told that, hey, the road has been closed because police are still searching for this guy. And so we're driving and we're like, wait a minute, the road isn't closed. Lo and behold, it was open at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And so we're like, okay, hey, let's not go and be like at this fire station that has like one light, because if someone's on loose and they're armed, might not be the best thing in the world to be trying to do a report in the dark with that happening, right? Lo and behold, you never want a guy there like to come up behind you or anything like that. Like, that never happens. So I was like, let's do this. Let's just go back to where they are and let's set up our camera differently, but let's still have the sign. So it's important. So this is the sign that says Idaho Springs. And we're doing a report. Now 31 is here and Channel 7 is about right here, and we have a different direction. So I make a call at 6 o'clock to find out more information about what this guy is. And I need a better description because we have a video, but I need a better description. So the description that I got was, okay, it's a black man, I can clearly see that, 5'11" and 6 feet tall, wearing tactical gear, thin build. Okay, so I specifically put it in my report, hey, Silver Spring Sheriff, they're looking for this guy, 5'11", 6 feet tall, thin build, wearing tactical gear. He is considered armed and dangerous, so if you see him, mind you, if you see him, don't confront him, call the police. So, 6:55, I literally go off and say that. The whole nine, that is my tag. We are on camera, and I'm ready to get off air. As soon as I get done finishing that up, and I go off air, my photographer's eyes are like drawn off, and he's kind of like pointing. I'm like, dude, what are you pointing at? And so that's where I go, the whole, yo, do you see this? I'm like, you see this? And so I'm like, put the camera on him. And so turn around, he zooms into the camera, zooms into this guy, and he is literally just walking across this bridge and walking to this gas station. And so I'm like as shocked as anybody else. And I'm like, I think that's him. I think that's him. I'm not too sure.
So again, it's 6:55. 7 o'clock I have a hit to do because we have to do it for our stream. So I just go through the same thing on air and everything. And afterwards, I call the station. I say, hey, I think we may have found him. What should I do? And they're like, Justin, you literally told everybody on TV that if you see him, don't confront him, call police. And I was like, yeah, can you call police? Is that okay? So call police, and about 10, 15 minutes later, they call us back. And you know, have you ever like spoke to somebody and they have a secret for you, but you know on the other line they really want to tell you what that secret is? So here comes the police officer. It's like, hey, do you know the person that you just called on? I was like, yeah. We just found him. That was the guy we were looking for. And apparently, this guy was robbing houses for the last couple of weeks before that. More so, the video that we had was actually from Monday. This story happened on Friday. This event happened on Friday where we caught him on camera. And so it was one of those where I was like for an hour just stunned. And I was like, how did this happen? Like, honestly, how did this happen? Because you never like have that happen where you're just reporting on somebody, you turn around, and that same person you reported on is literally just moseying along, walking to a gas station. And so, they caught him, and when they caught him, he was at the visitor center. And the officer told me that they were like, hey, you're the guy who's fit the description. He was like, well, I'm not him. And it was like, you're literally the guy who, like, your ankles are bleeding. Well, his ankles were bleeding because when he was in the car chase the night before, he kicked out the front windshield in order to get out. So when you kick out the front windshield, I don't know if you know this, but you're going to cut up your leg a little bit. And so it was just like, yeah, we got you red-handed with a cup of coffee in your hand right now too. And so that's where they arrested him and everything. And so it went everywhere, man. That story went viral. I was on World Star. And I was like, man, I didn't have to beat up anybody or shake anything, which is great. And on World Star, but it is definitely a very interesting story, and may I add, it's been a very, very interesting year from Bubbles Anderson to catching crooks. It has been a fun year.
I have a question.
All right, let's do it.
So, you may have someone who aspires to follow in your footsteps
Okay.
out of the audience, or maybe a brother or a sister or a niece or a nephew.
Okay.
Do you have a word of advice for them? How should they go about and be somebody who maybe can follow you in your path in journalism, as a voice, everything you achieve?
Yeah, are you speaking specifically with, discovering guys like Bubbles Anderson or anything like that?
I mean, in your career, in your career.
Let me say this, the quote that I live by is from a guy by the name of Howard Thurman. He was the mentor of Martin Luther King Jr. He had a book actually called, Something Disinherited. Oh goodness, I cannot believe we got that book. But my life quote is from him is, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you go alive and do it. Because the world needs more people who have come alive. And that's the number one thing I would say. If you work in this business, as we all know, you will find yourself at one point laid off. I've been laid off twice. You will find yourself where you feel like you're not getting paid what you truly deserve. But your passion is what will guide you. And God will take care of, God will provide all your needs. But let your passion be what guides you. And understand that, as a football coach told me at the University of Colorado, we are not here to own this seat that we're in. We're just keeping it warm for the next person. So know that you have a certain amount of time to do what you're here for, and then you need to go prepare yourself to be able to leave that seat warm for somebody else. And so that's the number one thing I would say, is that let your passion drive you, and make sure that when you do leave, that you left it better, not only the seat, but you left the organization better for the next person to walk in. That'd be my advice. Anything else? By the way, can I get a picture? picture. Did you take pictures, by the way? It's so weird. Everything's been like social media. I gotta put it on social media. But
Yeah,
you got some pictures?
yeah, not very good ones.
I know you're close, but I just
Girl, come on. Hold on. No, you deserve to be up here too. Come here. So, when I had an article that was written on Bubbles Anderson, this wonderful young lady right here did a fantastic job of putting everything together, and I will say this, it was one of the best stories I've ever have read. And I just want to say publicly, thank you so much. And it was, if you have not had a chance to go on Colorado Public Radio and be able to read it, Denver, right. And we also had something within the Colorado Public Radio as well. If you haven't had a chance, please go and read upon the story on Bubbles Anderson.
Thank you, and thank you for all your work you did to shine a light on Bubbles Anderson, but also on the Negro Leagues. So my question was,
Yes.
how, I guess, I found out that you were going to, that this accomplishment of yours was going to happen about getting inducted into the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame was on Facebook around this time last year. Did you think a year from having that post of saying that he was going to be inducted in November 2024, that November 2025, that all what transpired from April to now would have happened? Do you expect that all this to happen?
I think the question was asked earlier about, broadcasting journalism and everything. When you follow your passion and you see something through, boy, God, see, I always do this. The easiest thing you can do is give up. They quit. The easiest thing is, when COVID hit, I wasn't able to go and attend one of the Hall of Fame meetings, and I thought that would be the time. When the All-Star game came in 2021, I thought that would be the time. And I thought that we missed the opportunity. And I didn't think it was what happened. And truth be told, I can laugh about it now, but when it was one vote away, even though everybody pats you on the back and says, "Oh, it'll be okay," and Bubbles Anderson will be in the following year, you have doubts walking out of the room like, is this actually going to happen? And so to see that happen, and then to see how the response, people, made it all worth it. Because there was a lot of times when the things were happening. And I know it was going to be lost in history. And to see not only him in the Hall of Fame, but to see people like, we want to learn more about it. Yeah, that means everything. So, ooh. Golly. I was doing that, man. Goodness. Whew, okay. All right. Any more questions? I guess. Wow. Say this for everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you. I really appreciate this. And but this is just one story. There's many more to go. There's many more to go. And you're going to be the person to tell the story. And you're going to be the person that's going to make that contribution. And just know that every time we put a byline into any type of publication, we are preserving history. Because if it wasn't for someone preserving history back in 1943, I would have never have learned more about Bubbles Anderson. If it wasn't for someone preserving the history when he first went up to bat and the first games that he played, even though it was for a newspaper at Kansas City,
I would have never learned about Bubbles Anderson and about how he cries in the dugout, but about just how his heart and his passion for the game. You would have never known those things. So when you go out and do your work, just know that you're making a difference, and you're making a difference not only for today, but for many generations to come.
Thanks again for everyone for coming out, and thanks again to Justin for being our guest tonight. Again, this event was brought to you by SPJ Colorado Pro. SPJcolorado.org is our website. Feel free to sign up. We have waived our local dues, so sign up your national SPJ membership. You'll get a Colorado membership as well. And be sure to stay tuned to all of our social media for more events like tonight's event. And this was live streamed on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is SPJ Colorado Pro as well. So this live stream will be available later tonight and later this week to watch later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate you.